So Boruto TBV VORTEX chapter 26 just dropped, and is actually one of the first chapters I rated a 10 out of 10. Now let's get into why that is. But first, let me just say, if you were up at 4 AM with me going over all the spoilers, then drop a comment right now. Just know I appreciate it. Many people had work, school, but they all stuck it through with me. I think that's absolutely crazy. I love you guys, I really do. But without further ado, I talked long enough, let's jump into this new chapter. So the cover for this chapter is gonna be MOMOSHIKI, with him being a major focal point in the last chapter, as well as a character we just haven't seen in a while. I think it was pretty obvious that he would get the cover this month. And honestly, it's one of the best we've seen yet. I'm liking this cover, it's one of IKEMOTO's best. So anyway, we start off the chapter with Inojin being a lover boy, delivering honey to his honey. Yeah, you probably thought that was a little cringe, but guess what? I'm letting that one sit. We actually seen this one prior because it was the first sneak peek, so nothing to really analyze here. But after Inojin delivers this rare honey to Himawari, he spots one of Kashin Koji's toads near the house. Koji immediately starts talking to Inojin through the toad. At first he asks Inojin straight up to his face, does he have feelings for Himawari? And you know, when a character starts blushing and instantly starts to deny it, as like a panicked first response, then they do have feelings for them. And it couldn't be any more obvious. And we can see Koji knows ball too. He even says like, yeah, based off of your reaction, I could tell what the answer is already. But I digress. Here's the important part. He asked him if he wants to protect Himawari, and you can see the determination sparks up when he says this. That's all that Koji needed to hear. So now that they have aligned interests, Koji reverse summons Inojin back to the hideout, and he's greeted with him and Boruto just chilling. So at first Koji greets Inojin, and then they start talking about who he is and what's his motives. He also sees that Boruto is also here too. And now we're given another aura farming panel by Boruto. He's channeling his inner Uchiha for this one. Like you could see it, Itachi, Madara. But all jokes aside, you can tell his demeanor is more cocky than before. He gives you the impression that he knows he's strong, and not many people can stand up to him. And depending on who you ask, they might give you a different answer, but that's honestly the truth. He's earned all right to sit up in that chair chilling. But returning to the story, it's not a real Boruto chapter without the Shinju. I know that, you know that. Come on, it's basic science at this point. So we see Jura, Hidari, and Mamushi chilling back at their own hideout. They're the only Shinju remaining. It's crazy to say that, but it's just the reality. Even though the Shinju are super strong, and I mean on Jigen levels of strength, the youth of Konoha has adapted and followed accordingly. You can no longer underestimate the youth. They've earned their respect, no matter how you slice it. This is the strongest era of Shinobi Konoha has ever had. It's not really a debate, and people better start recognizing. Even last generation, it was just Naruto and Sasuke. Maybe if you want to count Sakura, sure. But in this generation, I can confidently say it has more variety of strong shinobi, or soon to be strong shinobi. Boruto, Sarada, Mitsuki, Kawaki, even now that Himawari is on the come up. So I'm really excited that we have so much variety now, because I feel like all of them I just mentioned could be on the level, or is already on the level of the Shinju, not named Jura of course. So now we transition back into the story, and it looks like Jura is reading a novel which has brought him to tears. Jura expresses to Hidari that even though it's a piece of fiction, he underestimated it. He then recalls to when Matsuri was fighting against Konohamaru. The feeling was similar. Through her connection with Konohamaru, she felt anger, sadness, and even a glimpse of love. So he states because of that, what he gained was immense. But even though what Matsuri went through helped Jura a lot when it comes to understanding different emotions, he still feels like he's far away from truly understanding and conquering the concept of love. So this cutscene is just to show us that Jura is still as motivated as ever to get his hands on Naruto, because he feels he's the one person that can help him understand this love that he's been searching to learn more about. Through devouring him, he'll finally conquer love and truly become unstoppable. But what's unusual this time is to see Mamushi chime in with his own opinion. He states that information isn't all that special. telling us for the first time that as a Shinju, gaining information isn't on the forefront of his mind. What he desires is control, which is why he set EIDA as his target. It's not simply about preying on her because of her looks or anything. He takes interest in her genetic makeup. He literally just wants her power. As we all know, EIDA is a cyborg that is enhanced with Shibai cells. Mamushi wants that. He wants her because of what she is, not who she is. So it's control he's after. Control over her and her power. The Didimushi comments are funny. Trust me, I was laughing all night when you guys were spamming that in the live stream. So let's make sure to keep that going, please. Cause he definitely has some Master Roshi tendencies. Like, come on, bro, what is he reading right here? Like, where did he get his hands on a damn Playboy magazine? Everything about this scene is crazy, but at least we finally learn why Mamushi is after EIDA specifically. That's something I feel like we should have learned already a little earlier, but I guess since now Mamushi is about to spring into action, now's the best time to do something like this. So moving on to what I believe is to be probably the most important part of the chapter narratively. We finally have another meeting between Shikamaru and the village elders. So as he's heading to their room, Kashin Koji starts to communicate with Shikamaru. He tells him that they're now getting cooperation from Inojin. Since Ino no longer wants to do it, the only other person that they can ask for help is Inojin, since he knows how to perform the mind transmission technique. So Koji uses Inojin to communicate with Shikamaru about a really important matter. He talks to him about the meeting, and in this meeting, he could be removed from the position of Hokage. They have to avoid that at all costs, because that could be trouble for Koji as well as Shikamaru. So he's gonna help him by giving him all the advice he can to keep that from happening. So beginning this conference meeting, we see the personal attendant that works directly under the daimyo is gonna be talking with Shikamaru today. So the topic of discussion is the Tsunagakure mission that was carried out on his own authority as an arbitrary decision. It seems the elders as well as the daimyo took issue with that. So Shikamaru tries to have these old farts understand that they're dealing with the Shinju, and they're not the type of people you can reason with. So he was mainly acting off quote-unquote certain information. This information is of course Kashin Koji's prescience ability. Remember when he told Shikamaru to send Konohamaru and the others to the land of wind? And from there, Koji told them more information that would end up being a positive outcome. 2 Shinju ended up being defeated, and Sarada gotten so much stronger due to the awakening of her mangaka. So even though the mission did result in a casualty, it was completely necessary for the survival of the planet. Koji tells Shikamaru to not mention prescience to the elders, so unfortunately, he's gonna have to give them the Boruto response and decline to go into detail about that information. And even though he explains that it's for everyone's safety, the elders still get extremely pissed off. And then Boruto ends up getting brought in this conversation. They don't know about Koji, so the one who they immediately thought of was Boruto. Because based off his interrogation about 12 chapters ago, they know he carries a lot of information regarding the Shinju and their motives. But where the disconnect lies is the mere fact that the elders believe that Boruto is connected to this behind the scenes. They believe it's all a scheme to deceive the people of the village, using information as bait to try and dismantle Konoha from within. So they're completely lost. They don't trust Boruto at all. And on top of that, they don't listen to nothing they're told. Even when Konohamaru jumps in the conversation to tell them that Boruto has literally saved his life back in Tsunagakure, so he's basically claiming there is no way he has it out for Konoha. But like I said, you can't reason with these types of people. Even though they're not out there witnessing what Konohamaru and the others are witnessing, they still believe that their word holds more weight than anyone else's just because they're older and they believe age equals wisdom. So they're stuck in their old, outdated, systematic way of thinking, and it's actively hurting Konoha, as you guys can see. So I really don't know what's to come from all this, but I'd say the worst possible outcome in this scenario is Shikamaru getting fired, because then I feel like Konoha will really fall. And I remember reading this on stream. It was making me really frustrated because there's no way you say something like this again, that Boruto killed the 7th Hokage, when he did tell you that he's not dead and him and his wife are safe. I mean, not only did he chase Code out of Konoha, but he defeated Hidari and directly caused the Shinju to retreat out of Konoha. Without Boruto, none of that happens, and the elders wouldn't even be living to this day. But like I said, they don't understand because, say it with me now, they not in the field. They don't understand what's going on. And the longer these guys are still in power, the worse chances Konoha has of survival. So moving on, now we move on from the topic of the Shinju, right on to Boruto himself. The daimyo's assistant, Lord Kobu, explains the incident that happened to cause Boruto to escape the interrogation room. So because of the possibility that there is a traitor among them, they have to take everyone who had direct contact with Boruto into custody. That means Konohamaru is now a prime suspect in this case. So they're actively looking for the traitor who set Boruto free. So that means they're looking for Mitsuki, as well as the person who ordered him to do it, which is Shikamaru. So this is probably the worst possible position they could be in, because they won't stop until that person is flushed out. And once they're caught, they will be thrown in prison for treason, just like I feared. So like I said, this is one of the craziest parts of the chapter. This could change the entire outlook on the whole story and how Boruto and Kashin Koji gotta move. I do believe now Boruto will try and stay out of the village as much as possible, just to take some of the heat off Shikamaru and the rest. But at this point, the damage is already done. Right now, I feel the only option is to rely on Koji's prescience to point Shikamaru in the right direction so he can keep what he did hidden and his job safe. So that little heated conversation ends and we're brought back to the hideout with Inojin, Boruto, and Koji. This part is basically confirming to us that Inojin is a part of this little rebellious group now. Whether he likes it or not, by law, he's considered a rogue shinobi now that he's working with two criminals. So it's just Boruto and Koji telling Inojin that breaking the rules is necessary to deal with the Shinju. Don't regret what you did, because at the end of the day, it's for the best. The enemy won't hold back, so they can't hold back neither. So now Inojin gets a spark of determination within him. He now understands what's gonna need to be done to save everyone. And his deep desire to keep Himawari safe inspired him to accept his new role as a traitor along with Boruto. Now Boruto and Koji begin to have their own little conversation, and it starts out centered around Momoshiki. Koji asks Boruto what happened with Momoshiki because he knows he made some type of deal with him, so he asked him about it. And Boruto just said, don't worry about it, he's doing what needs to be done to fulfill his role. And you can see Koji doesn't really like that answer because he's not being transparent. It's almost like he's hiding something. So Koji makes it known that he doesn't like Boruto's attitude right now. Something is up with him and he wants to know. So they actually start to have a little argument here. Boruto is frustrated with Koji because time after time, he hides every inconvenient detail about his visions. So he refers back to the Tsunagakure mission. He asks Koji exactly how many people were supposed to die. So Koji argues that he did what he thought was best. He guided things towards the best possible outcome for Sarada to awaken her MS, which you guys can probably guess right now was a high priority in this mission. And that's because Sarada has a major role in the planet being saved. So the awakening of her MS was mandatory. And the future that Koji was leaning towards actually avoided a future where a large number of people would be helplessly killed. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, Boruto is my guy, but right here I have to admit, he got pressed. I have to agree with Koji here. Obviously, because Boruto stepped in, one more person was saved than planned, but that's only because Boruto stepped in. Boruto going to Tsunagakure was not in Koji's plans because he knew that if Boruto went to the sand, he would be killed by Jura, and that's a big no-no if they want to save the planet. Koji didn't know that Boruto was plotting behind the scenes. He didn't know that Kawaki would come to save Boruto. Heck, he was almost too late. He arrived at the last possible minute. So Boruto hid stuff from Koji too. They're both not completely innocent in this scenario, but Koji's not to blame. He's doing what anyone would do. Out of every possible outcome, he's moving towards the one where the least amount of people die and they still get what they came for Sarada to awaken the MS. And he's not wrong for not telling Boruto this because he didn't want him to do anything dumb. And the crazy part is, he proved Koji right. So like I said, I just have to stay subjective and agree with Koji here. So Boruto backs off of Koji, and before we transition to the next scene, we're left on a huge cliffhanger from Koji. After Shikamaru tells Koji that Konohamaru has been taken to the interrogation room, He tells Shikamaru to prepare because in only 1 week, Mamushi will be ready to make his move to Konoha, and his target is EIDA. They have to be ready for that fight. So next chapter, he's gonna give some insight on Mamushi and his abilities, as well as how to beat him. So that's gonna be a huge talking point for next chapter. Before we actually see them, Koji is gonna tell us all of Mamushi's abilities, so we might finally learn what about him makes it so he can see through the Senragan. So, I mean, I can't wait, to say the least. That's what I've been waiting on for a long time. It's personal for me, and I'm gonna be live reacting to it, so if you wanna be there with me for when it goes down, hit that noti bell right now. So finally, we're transitioned to Sarada, Sumire, and Eida's point of view, and it's about to get heated. They start off the conversation talking about Boruto, as you may have already guessed. You know, more girl talk, talking about when they're gonna confess their love to him and all that. But then Eida asks them directly for the second time if they are truly enchanted by her. Because all this time they're talking about Boruto and how much they love him. But remember, if they're enchanted by Eida, they should be talking about how much they love her, not Boruto. And especially when she's right in front of them. So the jig is up. She now knows that they're not affected, and there's probably not anything they could say or do to make her think otherwise. So as soon as she says this, Damon gives them the look. And you know what look I'm talking about too. It's go time. Briefly, Sumire remembers what Shikamaru told them way back in part 1 when they first found out they were not affected by omnipotence. Not to let Damon catch on, because if he does, there's no telling what he'll do to them. Right after this, Damon starts walking towards them. Instantly, Sarada activates her MS, but as soon as she does, Damon is already behind them with both hands on their neck. And we can see just how fast he is in real time. Sumire doesn't even know what's going on. She's hopeless. She couldn't even perceive his speed. But Sarada more or less caught on, which is why we can see she's looking at him while Sumire is looking off into space. So last page of the chapter, Damon gets all up in Sarada's ear and just reminds her who he is, basically warning her to be careful because he has his hands on the both of them. Whatever they're gonna do or think about doing will be reflected right back onto them. I don't even know what Sarada was planning to do here. It's almost like she panicked and just tried to do something in a desperate attempt to save her life. I mean, it was a very intense situation, so I can't blame her for making a rash decision here. But that decision could have cost her her very own life if she didn't stop. At the very least, this shows us that Damon still is that guy, and he's still far above the people we try and put him up against. But that's it for the chapter review. I tried to keep it a review because sometimes I get to analyzing things when I need to remember. That's why I make analysis videos. So expect lots of those on chapter 26 for the rest of the month. We're gonna be working hard on those. As for this chapter, it gets a whopping 10 out of 10 from me. It was not only informative, but it pushed us right into the next arc of the story just how I expected it to. I really enjoyed it because there was no fighting and I was still engaged from page 1 right to the end. But hey, let me know what you thought of the chapter down below. And of course, you guys know the deal. If you enjoyed this video and don't mind seeing more like this in the near future, go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any future videos or when I go live for chapter spoilers. And until my next one, I'll see you boys and girls later. And I'm out. Peace.